Hello everyone, and thank you for signing up for this TÜV SÜD webinar on EU medical device regulation and its implications for cosmetic devices. My name is Nora Huyn, and I will be your moderator today. So before we start, here's a quick introduction of our speakers today. We have with us Dr. Melania Battistella, who is our cosmetics clinical reviewer at TÜV SÜD's Clinical Center of Excellence that is based in Germany. After receiving her degree in medicine and surgery, Melania pursued extensive further training at prestigious centers in Brazil, Asia, and the Middle East. Since 2013, she has contributed her expertise as a freelance consultant in the R&D departments of various aesthetic medical companies, assisting with product and protocol development and education of distributors and end users of Class 2B and Class 3 aesthetic medical devices. Also with Melania, we have with us Mr. Attilio Durantini, who is Project Manager of Cosmetics with TÜV Italia. He began his work with TÜV SÜD Product Services in 1992, looking after products falling under requirements of European directives. For 19 years, he served as Business Unit Manager of Medical Health Services at TÜV Italia before moving on to Food Safety as the Managing Director of our PH Lab from 2015 to 2017. Today, he's back with us at Medical Health Services managing cosmetic products. With that, I will now hand you over to Melania, who will run through the presentation.
Hello and welcome to everybody. I'm speaking as Project Manager of Cosmetic Devices Approach for TÜV SÜD Product Service. I would like to introduce this webinar as the first initiative of TÜV SÜD Product Service to approach the significant change introduced in the new Medical Device Regulation 2017-745. This is intended as initial step, Module 1, just to introduce the matter and set the common starting point. Within the next months, a second one, Module 2, will deepen the hottest arguments, also taking a cue from your feedback on the current one. And now I hand over back the speaker's role to my colleague Melania.
Again, hello everybody. And as you already know, today we are going to talk about the new medical device regulation and its impact on cosmetic device. And I would like to highlight that what we are going to share with you today is based on our current understanding of the MDR. And to understand this new medical regulation and its impact, it is important to know what is the background, why it has been written, and the whole context that integrates different aspects that need to be covered to obtain a CE mark. I think that almost all of us is quite confident about the directive in force nowadays and of the guidance documents. But let's have a look at the changes that have been apported to them in the last few years. The ISO 13485 has been reviewed and it is being more strictly focused on the setup and maintenance on a more efficient quality management system that each manufacturer should have. In addition to this, the MEDEF Revision 4 has been updated with a lot of new requirements in terms of clinical evaluation in order to guarantee a better service for ensure the safety and efficacy of the device that needs to be placed into the market. In May 2017, the European Union has written a new medical device regulation with a new focus that is our focus today, the inclusion in the scope of the aesthetic device. As for any use and changement, there is a time for transition that could allow manufacturers to understand the new requirements and make them able to fulfill it. In this case, the deadline is May 2018, while the transition period lasts till May 2020. Till this day, also notified bodies are working in order to be designated and allow them to release the CE under this new regulation. Now let's go into the main changes that will influence the aesthetic device categories. Just a short reminder here that you can see with the definition of a medical devices. That is any instrument, apparatus, appliance, software, implants, material, or other article intended by the manufacturer to be used with the scope to diagnosis, prevention, monitoring, prediction, prognosis, or treatment or alleviation of a disease. And so, already from here, if we look between the lines, we can already perceive how much importance has to be done to the purpose of a device. What happens is that some products, especially the ones without an intended medical purpose, such as the aesthetic devices, but which are similar to the medical ones in terms of functioning and risk profile, are not entirely covered by the existing harmonized standards and directives, and now they will be regulated by the MDR, in which are already mentioned the common specification. In order for manufacturers to be able to demonstrate the conformity of such products, the Commission should adopt common specifications that are being created in order to manage the risk that this category of device has and to ensure the safety and to minimize the risk at the maximum level possible. Common specifications shall be adopted by May 2020, and they shall apply as from 6 months after the date of their entry into force, or from May 2020, whichever is the latest. Such common specifications shall be in conformity with the MDR and with the harmonized standards. And please be aware that May 2020 is not very far. If we want to look into Article 1 and 9, we can find in here a lot of new details regarding the common specification. Giving an example, if we see for cosmetic contact lenses for changing the color of the eyes, in the past there were no specific rules to follow. But now, with this regulation, by May 2020, they will be classified like Class 2A device. They will need a conformity assessment together a EU certificate and a declaration of conformity for obtaining the CE mark. Into the medical device regulation, we will find in the Annex 16 a list of devices with no medical purpose that includes the aesthetic device, and they are classified in active device and non-active device. There are 6 big classes, and we are going into it now. The first one includes the cosmetic contact lenses. The second one includes the products intended to be totally or partially introduced into the human body through surgically invasive means for the purpose of modifying the anatomy or fixation of body parts. The third one includes substances or combination of substances or items intended to be used for facial or other dermal or mucosal membrane filling by subcutaneous, submucous, or intradermal injection. Now let's go to the active classes. We have the equipment intended to be used to reduce, remove, or destroying adipose tissue, such as equipment for liposuction, lipolysis, or lipotesting. The other one is the high-intensity electromagnetic radiation emitting equipment intended for use on the human body, including coherent and non-coherent sources, monochromatic and broad-spectrum light, such as laser or intense pulse light equipment, for example, for skin resurfacing or skin rejuvenation, tattoo removal or hair removal or other skin treatment. The last one includes such kind of equipment intended for brain stimulation that applies electrical currents or magnetic or electromagnetic fields that can penetrate into the cranium in order to modify the neuronal activity into the brain. I want to highlight authorized should be also classified as medical device in the future. And now I will leave the microphones to Attilio that is going to talk about general requirements.
Now we are taking into consideration how these changes will impact with the operators who are active in the European market. The manufacturer intended who is placing the products onto the market has to take care about the following incumbencies. First of all, ensuring the compliance of the medical device regulation described in the Annex 1, general safety and performance requirements, and be very careful taking into consideration that compliance must be based on clinical evaluation, supported by risk management system, and continuously monitored. They need to keep an adequate technical documentation. They need to perform a risk-based classification according to MDR Annex 8, and then they can choose the conformity assessment procedure, eventually involving the notified body. At the end of this process, they need to issue the EU Declaration of Conformity that leads them to the CE marking on the products, putting the device on the market. After that, they need to maintain a post-market surveillance and vigilance system. They need to keep an efficacious and efficient quality management system for managing all the processes, and they need to nominate a person who is responsible for regulatory compliance. So let's then spend some words about general safety and performance requirements described in the Annex 1. The general safety and performance requirements are set in order to safeguard the public health. Now I'm going to explain a little bit the sequence. The general safety and performance requirements described in the Annex 1, from 1 to 9, they just describe the risk management approach. From 10 to 22, they describe the design and manufacturing processes that need to address the chemical, physical, and biological properties, taking care about prevention of infections or particular requirements for substances or medicinal parts. They need to consider the absorption, the potential absorption of the substances into the human body. They need to take care about thermal risks and risks associated to the use of layperson. That is something very new in the directive. On 23rd, we need to take into consideration that the manufacturer must provide to the customers or to the users, professional or not, information that are essential for the safe use of the product. So it means labeling and instruction for use, safety warnings. For some specific products like implants, it is required the implant card, for instance. For the devices referred in the Annex 16, we have to make a specific consideration about risks. You know that, or if you don't know, we explain to you that the most important evaluation in the risk management is balancing benefit with risks. In this case, having no benefits from the medical point of view, the tendency is reducing at the most important low level the risks. They must be seriously minimized. This is a hot item for sure, and this will be part of the module 2 and will be deepened in this occasion. Okay, now we see that the manufacturer needs to classify the products. The classification is very important to draft the following path within the conformity assessment procedure. We have rules for that. We have rules from 1 to 4 that are describing the classification for non-invasive device. That means they do not enter into or onto the body. From 5 to 8, the invasive devices, in which we have some definition about body orifices, surgically invasive, that means put into the body through a surgical intervention. In these rules, we take into consideration human body critical discretes, like central circulation or central nervous seat, and it is very essential the duration of permanence. One very important concept is that more than 30 days they are named as implantable devices. The rules from 9 to 13 are taking into consideration the active devices. The active devices are powered by energy that are different from human or gravity energy. Very important is the nature and the exchange of energy with the human body and the potential associated risks. At the end, we have from 14 to 22 some spatial rules that are leading to a clear classification. For instance, taking into consideration the absorbable products or containing medicinal products or human or animal origin tissues. So we saw that the classification is the first action of the manufacturer based on his products. This is crucial for choosing the appropriate and convenient conformity assessment. Based on the result of the Annex 8 evaluation of rules, we lead to 5 classes. The class 1, the low-risk devices, in which the intervention of the notified body is not required, or the class 1 with sterile condition or measuring condition, in which they will be considered just for the sterilization aspects and the measuring functions. The class 2A, medium risk, the class 2B, high risk, and the class 3, the highest risk, considering special cases. Please don't get hurted by the complexity of this slide. It is just describing all the possibilities granted to the manufacturer with regards to the conformity assessment. Then, starting from the top, let's consolidate that the first step is challenging the device against the general safety and performance requirements and prepare an adequate technical documentation. Talking specifically about devices in Annex 16, we think that the most interesting part is the one on the right. This part is considering Annex 9 as the most suitable annex to be applied with the involvement of the notified body. In case of Class 2A and Class 2B, the quality management system assessment integrated by the systematic technical documentation evaluation during the auditing process is sufficient. For Class 2B implantable and Class 3, the technical documentation as well must undergo a full assessment according to Chapter 2. Class 3 implantable devices or with incorporated medicinal or utilizing tissues or cells of human or animal origin, as well as Class 2B active devices intended to administer and or remove a medicinal product. For those categories, a specific procedure is foreseen according to the paragraph 5 describing Chapter 2 in Annex 9 as well. This will be a specific hot argument for the webinar Module 2. So now let's spend some words about the notified bodies. The notified body, first of all, an important concept. A notified body is a controlled body, it is not free completely. They must be impartial and independent. They need to provide adequate competency and resources. They are designated and monitored by the national authority. Their notification is published in the EU official journal. They are registered in NANDO database. They have to perform conformity assessment procedures. They need to perform regular surveillance of the quality management system, including non-announced audits. And based on their work, if the manufacturer is retained suitable for his processes and his organization, they are going to release the EU certificate. Now the ball comes back into the hands of the manufacturer. The manufacturer needs to do a very important official act. They need to draw the declaration of conformity. It's a very important document. It's an official statement of complying with the MDR requirement. Only after that, and after that done with all the supporting evidences like certification, for instance, they can put on their product the CE marking. The CE marking is a very important symbol and must be also graphically perfect to show that there is conformity with the European requirements. And now I'm going to give back the microphone to my colleague Melania.
Thank you, Attilio. And as you already mentioned, the aim is not only to obtain the CE mark, but the manufacturer should also produce a systematic and actively system gathering information from post-market experience with their device in order to proactively collect any information and set up a post-market surveillance system under the quality management system and based on a post-market surveillance plan. They have to collect all relevant data and information from within the post-market surveillance, as well as lessons learned from any implemented preventive or corrective actions should be used to update any relevant part of the technical documentation. Periodic safety update reports, as well as summary of safety and clinical performance and trends reports should have been conducted to monitor the safety and performance of the device. And all these reports and how should be structured will be discussed in Module 2. Regarding the vigilance, it is very important that manufacturers need to report any serious incident within the European market, except from the expected side effects, and they have to define the methods and tools to investigate complaints or market experience, methods and protocols to manage the events subject to the trend reports, including any tool to trace statistically significant increase in the frequency or severity of incidents with a pool of corrective action that shall be also considered and conducted. I will leave the microphone again to Attilio, that is going to talk about the planning.
Thank you, Melania. Now it's time for planning. Well, our suggestion is setting two phases, but please, very close to each other. Time is running. The phase one, I think that you need to define which changes are applicable to your organization, to your devices, and determine their significance. Clarify open questions, for instance, regarding classification with notified body if needed or any other authorities. Set priorities and define a clear action plan. In the phase two, you can start to pre-assess compliance to the new requirements. You have always to start collecting new data, and there is a lot of things that are new. You need to verify the eventual need of resources. You have to name the person for the regulatory compliance. You can start, and you have to start, preparing the technical documentation for what is possible. You need to start planning for the UDI, Unique Device Identification Introduction, Univoc Device Identification Introduction. This is something coming from the European Union as well. You need to update procedures where necessary, for instance, the post-market surveillance at the light of the recent changes. You need to start selecting or maybe making a sort of evaluation for choosing the notified body and verify their readiness. Okay, we have heard that common specifications have to go, but even if no common specifications are available at the moment, should we stay still and wait without doing any actions? I don't think so as a wise decision. Manufacturers must become familiar and start working on certain topics. First of all, it's a repetition, but you know it's very important. Technical documentation preparation. Enabling a risk management approach, and the reference is EN ISO 14971. They need to take into consideration clinical evaluation and the associated post-market surveillance. They need to make some comparison with existing technical standards for similar devices. For instance, for non-active devices, biocompatibility and the sterilization process, or for active devices, the basic compliance to the concept of the EN 60601-1. Of course, they need to have an efficient and efficacious quality management system, and the reference is EN ISO 13485. And they have to start taking into consideration specific requirements for particular devices, for instance, the implant card. Let's have a look then to the technical documentation. Starting from the base of the pyramid, we need to verify that the first step is making a clear device description and specification, including variants and accessories. As we have heard at the beginning, accessories are also involved by this medical device regulation. And another point, their classification is independent from the basic product. So please pay attention to that. After that, you need to identify clear information to be supplied by the manufacturer to the customers or to the users. You need to describe design and the manufacturing process with certain, let's say, precision, and in order to ensure suitability of those processes. You need to challenge the product against the general safety and performance requirements, producing a checklist for that. You need to verify the benefit, risk analysis, and the risk management. At the end, of course, you need to have a product verification and validation that is part of the design process. And now it's time to hand over the speaker's role back to Melania.
Thank you, Attilio. Coming back to the risk management, there is an annex, the Annex 1 in the MDR, where you can find the definition in paragraph 3 and 4 that define what risk management is and should be. So manufacturers shall establish, implement, document, and maintain a risk management system. And so the risk management is a continuous iterative process throughout the entire life cycle of a device, requiring regular systematic updates. It is important to say that all these requirements are needed to assure the safety and so the public health safety. Manufacturers should conduct the risk management also according to the ISO 14971 and has to take all the measures to mitigate the risk, collecting information from the market and reduce the risk as much as possible. Where appropriate, it is important also to provide a training for the final user. All the risk measures will be discussed in the module 2. Coming to the point now, there are a lot of changes regarding the clinical evaluation that the new MDR requires. We always hear to speak about scientific literature. First of all, the clinical literature has to be relevant, and it is relevant if referred to an equivalent device. Equivalent device means similar for design, specification, and properties, for deployment methods, condition of use, principle of operation, and effect in the same body area. If the amount and quality of data are not deemed to allow a qualified assessment, it is necessary to conduct a clinical investigation, considering, of course, the state of the art and so also the possible alternative option available. All the conditions for equivalency, demonstration, and exception will be discussing in Module 2. In the case of the products without an intended medical purpose listed in Annex 16, the requirements to demonstrate a clinical clear benefit shall be understood as a requirement to demonstrate the performance of the device. Clinical evaluation for those products shall be based on relevant data concerning safety, and clinical investigations again shall be performed for those products unless reliance or existing clinical data from an analogous medical device is duly justified. Now, I will give the microphones again to Attilio, that will focus the point to the quality management system.
Most of the annexes describing the conformity assessment are requiring a quality management system that must be implemented, must be designed, implemented, and maintained adequately. Of course, as any other regulation, there is not a direct mentioning of the quality management standard to be applied. In the European Official Journal, you find regularly the report of the harmonized standards that are giving the presumption of conformity towards those regulations. At the moment, we have the MDD, the Medical Device Directive, that is mentioning the EN ISO 13485 as applicable for proving compliance to the quality management standard. It's highly probable that the EN ISO 13485 will be adopted also for MDR, as it constitutes the worldwide basis for regulatory compliance to the medical device regulation. Few other words. The ISO 13485 has finally divorced from ISO 9001/2015 and its high-level structure. But this is just to focus the regulatory requirement, and based on that, it is globally recognized as a state-of-the-art for regulatory compliance at worldwide level. Well, now, can we help you? Sure, we can support you with our services. The MDR preliminary service is provided by TÜV SÜD Product Service. We start with training and information just to produce culture on the new changes of the MDR. We can provide training on specific arguments. We are performing and preparing public seminars and webinars, technical meetings. We have also pilot services. Pilot services are supporting the customers and manufacturers, checking the readiness of their quality management system. We can make an early check of the technical documentation. We can make an early check of clinical evaluation report before being able to make a real evaluation for the certification. For testing, for non-active devices, as we told before, something is already clearly applicable. Biocompatibility tests for most of the products that are non-active. And for active device, the applicable part of EN 60601-1 family of law.
So thank you very much, everyone. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. If your question has not been answered, do not worry. We will follow up with an answer with you directly via email. We hope that you found this session interesting and relevant. Just to give you a quick update, to get the latest news, regulatory updates and more, we do encourage you to sign up for our Healthcare and Medical Devices Essentials newsletter at www.tuf-sud.com/MHS. We've given you a link through the chat box that you can click through. And you can also follow us on our LinkedIn Showcase page, which includes more updates and events such as this webinar. If you have any question regarding today's webinar topic or what we do, feel free to email us at medicaldevice@tuvsud.com. That link has also been sent to you via the chat box. So thank you very much for your time today and have a good rest of the day ahead.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.